Okay, I think we are live and ready to go. Awesome. Okay. Hope this is working on YouTube. I hope it is. Um, if it is not, if people are having issues, then please let us know. All right. Well, I'm gonna assume it's good, and we're just gonna start. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi to everybody tuning in right now for our live stream. Welcome to the JET program Q&A live stream, and this is sponsored by Incoming JET's 2019 Facebook group. We're really glad that you guys could join us today, and we're going to try to answer a lot of your questions. We got a lot of questions from the Facebook group, and then if you have any extra questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and if we have time, we'll try to get around to them. If not, feel free to post them on the Facebook page, and literally 2,000 people will try to reply to your question. All right, I'm going to throw it over to Lily first, and please introduce yourself, Miss Lily.
Hey guys, so I'm Lily and I am a second year JET for elementary schools. I'm also the National AJET social media director. So on our Facebook, all the updates you get are mostly from over here. So today we have some really cool volunteers that are going to help answer some of the questions that you guys have sent. So please introduce yourself, starting with Alivia.
Hi guys. Okay. My name is Al. I live in northern Iwate, which is in Tohoku, and I work with kindergarten, elementary school, and junior high. Oh, and I'm a first year, about to be a second year JET.
All right, awesome. Okay, next is Heather.
All right, hi guys. I am a first year municipal JET. I'm based in a small town in southwest Hokkaido. I'm based at the BOE and I have 4 elementary schools and 3 kindergartens that I go to. I'm also old and have 2 kids.
Oh.
Which we can hear in the background too, so that'll be some fun sounds.
Oops, hopefully there'll be no screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, all right. So next is Meghana. Meg.
Okay, hi, I'm Meghana. I am a municipal JET. I'm a first year. I'm BOE based, but I have 1 junior high school, that's my main school, 3 elementaries, and a preschool. I'm a first year, and I'm in southwestern Hokkaido, really close to Heather, actually.
All right, awesome. Okay, and next is Sam.
All right, hello. I am a second year JET in Kogoi, Saitama, which is close to Tokyo. I work at 3 different high schools, and I am a prefectural JET.
Okay, all right, thank you guys. Okay, and I will be your host. Me and Lily will be hosts for today, mods for today. My name is Laura. I'm in Yamanashi Prefecture, and I am a municipal JET, 4th year. I work at an elementary school and a junior high school, and I recently became a JET Block 4 rep. Holla. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the support. Okay, all right. So let's get started into our questions. Okay, so first question. So from the Facebook group, when we arrive in our placement, so when new JETs arrive in your placement, city, town, prefecture, do you immediately begin work, or are there a few days to like acclimate to your surroundings? All right, so let's start with Sam. Sam, how about you? How was your experience?
I did have to go immediately to work, but keep in mind that for the first month, you will have jack shit to do at work. So you'll have plenty of time to kind of get used to your coworkers and like the technology at your school, and you won't be stressed. So you'll have energy to explore after work.
All right, cool. Okay, so Meghana, how about you? How was your experience?
Yeah, mine was pretty similar. So Tokyo orientation is Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, you meet up with your prefecture group and you all travel to your prefecture together. In the case of Hokkaido, we had to take a whole flight. And then I had to get picked up from Chitose Airport, which is like right near Sapporo. And then my supervisor actually drove 4 hours to get me to my town. And I was really surprised because we got in and then immediately went to the Board of Education. And I had to sit at my desk for like 5 minutes for show. And then they're like, okay, go home now, bye. It's like 6 p.m., bye. And yeah, so it really is like from day one, you are like on the clock. But yeah, like Sam said, you're not really expected to do anything. You're just expected to kind of sit there, acclimate, go through your predecessor stuff. So it's pretty chill.
Okay, all right. All right, Heather, how about you? You're also in Hokkaido, so do you have a similar experience?
Well, I also had the long flight and the 4-hour drive. And mine, though, after getting back, walking into my house at about 6:30 p.m. next morning, I had an all-day English camp. So my first day at work was, hey! So it was a little intense, but I did have, and then we had the welcome party for me and the other incoming ALT that night. So I hit the ground kind of running, but then I did have the rest of summer break to sort of acclimate a little after that. So it does happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And Al, how about you?
I had something similar. Yeah, we had orientation. I got together with my prefectural groups. We headed up to Morioka in Iwate, and then they picked me up, dropped me off at the BOE, and said, "You're at work now. When you clock out, you can go move into your apartment," basically. So that was pretty interesting. But all three of my the ALTs in my kind of like municipal BOE block were actually new last year, so we had like no predecessors really around to tell us what was going to happen. And I was in the arrival A group, and the other two were in the B group. So I got to sit around for a week and kind of like acclimate until they got here. And then I kind of got to help them to the best of my ability get adjusted, because I had been here for 7 days longer than they had.
Okay. All right. How about you, Lily? Did you have any different experience? How was your experience when you first arrived?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems my experience was widely different. I'm a Hyogo jet on Awajishima Island, and after arriving to my placement, they put me up in a hotel for a couple of days, and I just kind of chilled out in there while they were trying to get all my stuff in order with meeting the BOE, meeting schools and whatnot. So I had a couple days of just kind of relaxing, nothing too crazy. I feel like it wasn't too overwhelming or anything. It was actually really slow, in my opinion. So so I had a different experience. So
yeah. And just throwing my 2 yens out there. When I first came in, we didn't have to go to work immediately. What we did, we came in and we had pretty much all of summer vacation for the rest of summer vacation before work started to like get moved in, get our apartments ready, do, shopping and all that stuff. And we did have to go like meet the BOE people and go to our schools and meet them. But our schools said like, oh, just be here, for opening ceremony day. And that was pretty much it. So it was nice to have that time just to sort of settle in. I realize it's not everybody's experience, but like here, like it was just really nice to have that time and get to kind of chill for a while. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So Lily, you want to take the next question?
okay, next question we have is, what do you recommend prioritizing when we arrive besides the standard bank account, mobile, etc.? What would you recommend to get settled and feel at home? All right, who shall we start with? Let's start the other way. Can we start with Alivia?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Something that I really enjoy doing is cooking and kind of going to the store and buying my own vegetables, and kind of having that kind of like a good start to moving in is really important, I think, to not only get over jet lag, but to kind of feel like you're being productive, even if you're sitting at a desk at the BOE for 8 hours and, desk warming. I could always come home and make a really good dinner for myself or pack a really nice lunch. And that helped me not only be healthy, but kind of figure out how the supermarket works and how my kitchen works, and makes me feel kind of like I'm more settled. And also, when you're fed, you're a lot happier and you can deal with stress a lot easier. And then on top of that, getting a good sleep schedule set up really early, because I was so jet lagged that going to bed at 9 p.m. actually really helped me, because then I could get up at 6 and kind of just like go through my whole day and not really feel tired. And that helps a lot with the initial culture shock and initial like kind of job shock of like, I don't know what's going on.
Cool. Okay. Next, can we have Heather give your experience?
I'd say pretty similar. Definitely stock your refrigerator, and figure out how. I've never had a gas stove before, and so just learn them and ask your questions early. And in my case, I really like baking, so I splurged and bought a mini oven, because I was like, I will not be happy if I can't bake. And so be okay getting something that makes you like feel good about where you're at in your home. It's okay to splurge a little bit and make it your home.
Okay, very nice. Next, Meghana, please.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said, Heather, about being okay to splurge every once in a while, because I feel like, especially for a lot of jets, our housing is passed down from predecessor to successor. So there can be kind of this mentality of like, oh, why do I want to spend money on this like home thing when I'm only going to live here for a couple years, and then I'm not going to be able to take it with me in my suitcase? But like, do it. Heather, you had your oven. I bought a weighted blanket. And like best choice I ever made. Like, glad I spent that money. From a real and bouncing off what Alivia said, jet lag was actually like a really positive experience for me, because I was able to wake up really early, walk down to the Combini, like get like some coffee or some breakfast or something, drink some tea really leisurely, all before heading to work, and that just put me in a much better mood. On the super practical side, I would recommend, just because Wi-Fi can take, we're going to talk about this a little later, but I think Wi-Fi takes like a month to set up depending on where you are. So look into like getting a pocket Wi-Fi that you can pick up like at Tokyo orientation. So then that way you can like have the internet with you. Because I know I would have felt really like not at home if I couldn't like communicate.
Awesome. And last, Samantha, or maybe not last, actually.
I don't have a lot to add. I feel like all the other lovely ladies basically covered it. But yeah, your priorities are gonna be different, because everybody's preferences are different. Just make sure that you make your space feel like home. Even if you're only going to be there for a year or two, it's still a year or two, which is longer than you might think. And I would also recommend, if you have a bike, kind of exploring the area around you, or even just walking. You'd be surprised what you might find.
That's really good. And Laura, let's hear what you have to say.
Okay. I've actually kind of forgotten the question. Hang on. Let me bring it up again. Okay. I was dealing with like the jet group. People are like, hey, where is it? Where's the live stream? I was like, oh, it's right here, guys. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so prioritizing when you arrive, besides like bank account and stuff. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everybody. I think everybody had really good suggestions of like, getting kind of used to your neighborhood. Trying to get through jet lag, especially if you are bad about having jet lag. And getting kind of on a regular sleep schedule. I think that's really important in the first few days. You're probably going to want to go to bed early, just to get your body used to it, or you just are going to be totally zonked out. So attempting at least to get your body used to the time difference. And then, when you get to your placement after Tokyo orientation, seeing what's around your neighborhood and getting used to being in your apartment, and, going to the grocery store. I think somebody else said that. I think prioritizing your overall like mental health and health first, especially like if you're immediately thrown into that, I have to go to work I have to go to the BOE. I have to do like meet all these people. You know, you have to do that, right? But make sure that you're taking care of yourself first, because it's a big change, and you can definitely feel some physical effects from it. So that's my recommendation.
Okay. And my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah.
For feeling at home, definitely as soon as you can, unpack everything and decorate. Like set aside a whole day to decorate your place. As you can see, I'm very into decorating my space. If I have blank walls, it just doesn't feel like home, and it can definitely affect your mental health. So the more you make it look like your home, the more you're going to feel at home. And that's just my quick take on that. So the next question will be taken over by Laura.
Okay. All right. Let me get on here. Okay. So our next question is, this is a big question, actually. So what is the one piece of advice you wish someone had told you, I guess, about coming into JET? Like, I guess pretty much anything. Like, what kind of advice do you wish people had told you that you might not have known otherwise about, I guess, coming to Japan, living in Japan, teaching, anything that you kind of wish you'd known before you got here? Okay, let's start with Meghana. Let's start with you this time.
Yeah, so I think most of the things that I wish I'd known was more like from my predecessor, like, oh, hey, it would have been nice to know this really specific detail about these two coworkers, you know, like blah, 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 or like how to work with these people. But in terms of like really, really general Japan stuff, I think it would honestly just be that I was a giant bundle of like nerves and fear before coming. And so I think like relax, it'll be fine. It's not as scary as you think it is. People are people, you know, no one's going to eat you. It'll be okay.
Hopefully not. Hopefully. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. Let's go over to Heather next. So anything that you wish you'd known, maybe, or advice that you wish you'd been given?
I think definitely, seconding like some of the coworker dynamics. I thought like at one point there's like maybe I was doing something wrong and I found out two coworkers actually didn't get along and it had nothing to do with me. So that was just like a little tips about, hey, like just so you know would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I see. I understand. Okay. Oh, hi. Let's see. All right. Let's go to Sam next. How about you?
So I've got two things. One serious and one not so. I wish that somebody had warned me about the NHK man. So the NHK man, for all of you incoming Jets, if you have a TV, or even if you don't have a TV, somebody will come to your door and tell you, you have to sign this thing, you have to pay us $25 a month, it's the law. You don't. You really don't. If you don't sign the papers, you are not legally obligated to pay the fee. So ignore the NHK man, speak English at the NHK man until they get scared and go away. Don't sign the papers, because I did, and I'm still a little angry about it.
Oh, no. Did you have to pay the $25? The $2,500?
$25 every 2 months. I have a television because I'm in a Leo Palace, and it came pre-furnished, but it's not even plugged in.
Oh, no.
But anyways, that's what I wish somebody had told me. And then on the more serious side, sometimes I would start to beat myself up because I didn't feel like I was traveling enough. I didn't feel like I was experiencing enough. And I just didn't have the energy to, because teaching takes a lot out of me personally, emotionally. And this is my first time having a full-time job. So I wish, because it took me a long time to realize this, that somebody had told me that it's okay if you're not out there living your best life like an Instagram model. Just enjoy your town, where you are, and the experiences that you're having in your everyday life.
Yeah, that's some good advice. Okay, and Al, how about you?
I'm not sure if this is directly related to JET, but just like lifestyle-wise, if you're stressed out about a problem, I like to create a little flowchart in my mind. That is, can I take steps to immediately solve this problem right now? Yes, no. And if it's no, forget about it and move on, because there will come a time when you will be able to fix it, and then you can direct your energy towards fixing the problem. But laying awake at night thinking like, oh my gosh, I didn't get along with so-and-so today and I'm really stressed out, and tomorrow maybe if we're going to have a big fight, I can't talk to that teacher right now. So it's really not a good use of my energy to be stressing out about, oh, what should I say? Because I know the next day when I see that teacher, then I can say, hi, good morning, how can we work better together? But laying awake at night or like stressing out at the supermarket about a teacher that you won't see for another 2 or 3 days is not really worth it. Obviously, if you're thinking like, oh, I'm really stressed out about paying my internet bill or something, then I can say like, oh, well, I have the bill and the convenience store is, a 20-minute walk away from my house. I have 20 minutes, I'm going to go pay my internet bill. Then that's perfect. But, if it's not urgent, especially for a lot of new people, the incoming jets, I know that you're stressed out a lot right now about, housing and how much things are going to cost and, what your first day is going to be like, but you're not going to know until August, and it'll be okay. I think that's the advice I wish someone had told me, was like, it will be okay. We're all adults. Like, you're not going to die. I'm still alive. I've been here a year. I did not die. My job is fine. It'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks. Okay, Lily, how about you? Do you have any things that you wish people had told you before you came over?
I feel like this is one of the more deeper questions. I had to give this some thought. When I first came into Jet, I came with this mindset of just like, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna be perfect. I'm gonna do everything. I'll be the best one ever. And then got kicked in the face, kicked in the gut, kicked in the back, and just entire life was beaten out of me. It came down to a day where I couldn't ride a bike, even though I practiced at home. I don't ride bikes in America, but I practiced before coming here. Riding a bike, it's very, very useful here. I just couldn't do that, and ended up having a mental breakdown for the whole day about it. And then just all came crashing down on me. I was like, oh, okay, you know what? This is not going to be easy, and I'm not going to be perfect at everything, and I'm not going to get everything right away. And I'm going to make so many mistakes, and that's actually just all normal and fine. And I'm not failing, and I'm not a terrible person for having failures for the first year. I feel like the piece of advice that I wanted to get for my first year was expect to make every mistake your first year. And after that, it's pretty much smooth sailing. So that, something I wished was told to me.
Yeah. And I agree with that too. I think my advice that I wish people had told me before is, you don't have to be Japanese. And that sounds weird, but I think up until the point where I actually moved to Japan, I kind of had this mindset of I have to be Japanese about everything. And you really don't. And to be honest, nobody super expects you to be. Even if they might expect you to be, they don't really expect you to be. That may not make sense right now, but in context, it might make sense later. But I know for me, I thought I had to be very Japanese manners about everything, and just do everything completely how everybody else was doing it. But because I'm a foreigner, I get kind of some leeway, I think, about some things. So I take more advantage of that now in a good way, of doing things that maybe my coworkers and maybe some of my Japanese friends probably can't. For example, I'm trying to think of an example. For my Japanese coworkers, everything is very scheduled and very set down in paper. And it can be anything I'm trying to think of a good example. A rotation, a class rotation, which is very important. But let's just say if I'm going to go eat lunch with my kids, they might, for my Japanese coworkers, they might have it scheduled and written down, and then it's passed out to all of the teachers. For me, I just take my train and go, and nobody says anything. But I think it's because I sort of just smash my way through it. I gaijin smash my way through so much of that that I'm afforded a little bit more leeway in terms of that. And I just wish people had told me beforehand. I don't think it's something you tend to hear a lot, is that, you know, you don't have to be like super Japanese about everything. I think that's a good way to really stress yourself out and be like, oh, I don't fit in, you know, and you start worrying like, you know, hey, okay, Al has wants to pop in here, so let's hear from her. Okay. Yeah, Al, you said it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
When I first got here, actually, I had that mindset too, and I straightened my hair every day. I had the very cute little straight across bangs. I wore white on the top and black on the bottom. I never said no. I was always chipper. And then 2 or 3 months went by, and I had a day where I was like, I think I'm going to wear curly hair and a sweater today because I'm cold and I'm tired. And all the teachers in the office actually had a really good reaction of like, oh, you look really good today, and not like you're a little scared 20-something deer in the headlights that has no idea what's going on. And kind of like having that one day where I was like, I think I'm going to have curly hair and say no to someone today. And it was a really good day, and nothing happened. No one was angry with me. And after that, I was like, yeah, I think I can award myself like 1 or 2 moments in the day where I don't have to, you know, be the constantly like K-go'd up, super polite teacher that has like everything together. I was like, no, that's not today. So there's a good balance, I think, between also just being professional. If you're professional, you can be American or wherever you're coming from, actually, and do what you want as long as you're doing it well.
Yeah, and if I can bounce off of that, I think as well there's this aspect of like part of our job, and a big part of our job is intercultural exchange, right? So a big part of our job is the fact that we're not Japanese. So we don't need to adapt to all of those kind of rules and regulations. For example, I just went to, I'm Indian American. I just hosted like an Indian cultural thing, and I got henna done on my hand. And one of my other Jet friends was like, oh my gosh, is that going to be okay? How is your school going to react? You know, that's so like, and all the Japanese people there were getting it in very discreet places so that they could cover it up. But I was like, no, you know what? This is my culture. It's very un-Japanese. A Japanese person would like never come to the office with henna on their hand. That would never be okay. But this is where, you know, we're doing intercultural exchange, and we're showing that like, hey, things are different in different parts of the world. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think, you know, part of it is that we are here for intercultural exchange, and it's not our job to be totally Japanese about everything. We're supposed to be sharing our culture. It might not always feel like we can, but it is part of the whole grassroots interculturalization that Jet and Claire really stress. So I think it's important to like share your cultures, like Meghana said. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any extra thoughts on any of it? You good? Okay. All right. So the next question, Lily, please.
What are essential things to include in your introduction to both staff and students? Essential things to include in your introduction. Okay, let's start with Heather this time.
Okay.
I'd say, I mean, aside from the obvious, your name and where you're from, those are important.
No, don't tell them that at all.
I would say, like, include a couple things that you genuinely enjoy doing, especially, like, even if they're, like, a little off the wall, or if it's something odd, like, hey, I really like dinosaurs or something. Those are things that other people will use to connect to you, and you might, like, end up making friends that way because your coworker loves dinosaurs, or your students absolutely love Bulbasaur. And so include just a couple of the little things that you genuinely enjoy doing, and then that helps make connections to people. That'd be mine.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have Alivia give her insight.
Sure. I would say leave it pretty open-ended. Whenever I do mine, I, you know, have my name and where I'm from and, you know, what schools I go to. And then I'd kind of like to say, like, this is my 3rd time in Japan, and maybe like 1 or 2 hobbies in there. And that keeps it short, but then people can kind of get thinking, and it is a good way for people to ask you questions. I think if you get up the first time and you're like, my name's Alivia, my blood type is A, I'm a Pisces, I'm from this state in this, America, and I lived here for 1 year, and then I moved over here and lived for 2 years, then that kind of like, it covers all the small talk, and then people can't have that icebreaker question with you. I think they can say like, oh, you're from America. Where are you from in America? Or how was your experience when you were living down south in Japan versus up north? Then you can kind of have that starter conversation.
That's hilarious. I feel so attacked about that. I'm a Pisces. Like, I swear that was my introduction. Oh my God, that's a really good.
No, me too. Me too. But over time, I shortened it and kind of.
Yeah. That's a really good piece of advice. Okay. Next, let's have Samantha.
Oh, I don't really have a ton to add on this, actually. I mean, I kept my introduction pretty short and sweet. Like the other two ladies said, leave room for people to come and ask you about it. And yeah, pretty much all.
Nice, short and sweet.
Don't stress about it. It's not that big of a deal.
Don't stress.
Yeah, that's important.
It's very,
Next,
very important.
Meghana, please.
Yeah, so since the question mentioned both students and staff, I never did I think a formal introduction to any of my schools, which is weird now that I'm thinking about it. But I did have to go to all the different blocks of the BOE and do self-introductions. I came in speaking 0.0 Japanese. So they literally, all it was, my self-introduction was literally hajimemashite, making a brandle this, yoroshiku onegai shimasu, bow, done. And yeah, they wrote it on a piece of paper for me. They were like, just say this. It doesn't matter what it means. Bow. So,
oh my God.
Could have literally given you anything. It could have been I eat dogs for dinner and
yeah.
So
it was for staff. It can just be super short and sweet. For students, obviously that's going to be in English, so longer. Like others, totally agree with what everyone else has said. The one thing that I would say is maybe think about you will be very directly asked what are your hobbies, and expected to just list one or two things off the bat. And I was like, hobbies? Or they'll ask you what is your specialty, and you're like, I don't know that I'm particularly good at anything. But yeah, people will expect an answer, and they'll expect it to they'll kind of hold you to that a little bit and then bring it up and expect you to actually be good at the thing. So I would maybe just think about what your hobbies are a little bit, so you can just have a canned response for when someone asks.
Very good. That's really good. Okay, and how about Laura?
Yeah, jumping off what Meghana said. So the reason people ask about hobbies and stuff here, I realize, is that Japanese people take things very seriously when it comes to hobbies. And if you don't dedicate your life to it, it's not a hobby. Like my kids, I'll ask my kids, for example, oh, do you like this thing? They're like, oh, no, not really. I said, but you do it, right? And they're like, yeah, well, you like it. But they're like, oh, well, I don't really like it. But they do. It's a an all or nothing kind of mindset. So the reason I think sometimes people ask about your hobbies is they have this mindset sometimes of you dedicate your life to this one thing, and you just spend all these hours doing it. So just expect that people might kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They might take it oh, you spend a lot of time on this one thing. And that's okay if they want to think that. But yeah, for you on that end, it is helpful to have some, just basic interests and basic hiking. I like hiking. I enjoy hiking, or I enjoy reading, or anything, to be honest. It's just a thing. It's just a thing people do here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, somebody say something? Yeah.
Sorry, my dad.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, just be prepared that in almost every class, your students will ask you whether or not you have a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Oh.
They do this, yes.
Okay.
How about the rest of you guys? Have you been asked that question?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Nobody wants to say anything else about it.
Yeah, nope, that's it.
It's nope, we've been asked it. It's cool, yeah.
That's a thing.
I have a good response. Actually, one of my friends who is no longer on Jet, he used to tell his kids that he had 47 girlfriends, and every time they asked, so anytime they would see him out with his actual girlfriend, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's like number 12." So yeah, they totally believed him. He just continued on with us for the entire time he was on Jet, I think.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I recommend it. It's really fun to see the reactions when you do that.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's a funny one. And then I'm a big personal fan of no boyfriend, no problem.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
And that's pretty widespread. Like the kids get it, the teenagers get it, and my coworkers get it, and they're like, yeah, no boyfriend, no problem. Like,
Nice one.
It's a good answer.
And I guess to wrap up the question about the self-introductions, my quick take on that is, if there is something in your life that you just love so much and you just need it in your everyday life for your own happiness, like for me, for example, that's dance. Be really annoying about it in your Jiko Shokai, in your introduction. Just be like, by the way, I love dance. I love this thing. I can't live without this thing. Oh my God. Like, and when you say it like that, they'll never forget it. And anything that comes up that has to do with that topic, they're going to let you know about it. Like in my case, my coworkers are really helpful in finding me like dance studios around here, or anytime there was, my kids working on a dance for the sports day or something like that, they always invite me to come do it with them. And just, if there's something you really, really love, don't be shy about it, be annoying about it. And hopefully your coworkers will receive it well and include you on the thing that you love. So that like contributes a lot to my satisfaction at work. So yeah.
And just adding on to that too, if they know that you like that, you're a lot more likely to get involved with school things, and maybe your teachers will invite you out to things if they know you specifically like these things.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to like get involved with your kids and with your schools if they know what you actually like.
Yeah. Okay. So let's head on over to our next question. Laura, please.
Okay. The next one is, what things should we be doing to prepare now while we're still in our home countries? Like, what should you be doing to prepare, or just, I guess, prepare for life, prepare for getting like teaching, JET program, etc. All right. So let's start. Let's start with Sam again.
Personally, what I wish that I had prepared more was, I wish that I would have gotten more of a professional wardrobe while I was still in America. Because my thought was, I'll pack light. I can get clothes in Japan. Wrong. Finding clothes that fit you in Japan is really difficult. So I would recommend making sure that you have a pretty sizable professional wardrobe before you come over here. And also, specifically for the ladies coming over, make sure that the clothes that you have are maybe more modest than you would typically be used to. In the first month or so, I got pulled aside for having shirts that were too low cut, and I thought they were perfectly respectable. So yeah, maybe a little bit more modest.
Yeah, some good advice. They tend to go on modesty a lot more here. Okay. All right. Meghana, how about you?
Yeah, I would say, so like I mentioned, I came in with like 0.0 Japanese. I studied like what I could over the summer before coming, and I think even that was like really, really helpful. So if you don't speak Japanese, or your Japanese is like really low level, like no joke, like study, especially I'm in an extremely rural placement, so like even my grocery store, there's not like bilingual signage. So my first grocery shopping trip took me like 45 minutes because I couldn't find anything. So yeah, do the studying. I would also recommend looking into like getting a pocket Wi-Fi. So it's just like a little box that'll like beam you Wi-Fi, and you pay like based off the days or whatever. There's a bunch of companies look into it. And there's a lot of options that will ship it to you, so you can pick it up at the hotel at Tokyo Orientation. Because it took about a month to get my internet set up. So I was just going off pocket Wi-Fi during that time, and I was super, super glad that I'd set that up ahead of time. You can also do the same thing with your cell phone, where you order it and then the SIM card arrives at the hotel for you.
All right. Yeah, some good advice. It does take a while to get internet sometimes. Yeah. Okay. All right, Heather, how about you?
Definitely seconding, start studying Japanese now. Learn your hiragana and your katakana at least. Don't care about kanji. Don't waste your time on it right now, and start learning basic sentence structure, just like a basic how to make a sentence, and as many vocabulary. Every little bit, like, really, really, really helps, especially say I'm in a very rural placement. And I'd studied some Japanese before, and that's the one thing I kick myself about. I'm like, I should have studied more. I should have studied more. And for those of you, especially if you have, say, your own apartment or your own place right now, start paring down your belongings now. Don't wait until the last week to like pack your entire life into 3 suitcases. Like, start now. Prepare.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was really hard. You had to move your whole family over, right?
Yeah, so I had
I
had a house, cars, 2 children. Good times. So most people probably won't have quite that much stuff to deal with, but still, like, you'd be surprised how much stuff you can accumulate in your life. So definitely.
Yeah. Even just here in Japan, it's surprising how much you can accumulate over a year, I think. So you never know how much stuff you have. Yeah, some good advice, definitely. Okay. All right. Al, how about you?
I feel like I always go with like the health side of things, but everyone's already talked about Japanese and setting up pocket Wi-Fi. But get in the habit of probably having like healthy de-stress techniques now, because when you come, if you are stressed out and you don't already have kind of a basis of, oh, well, I'm going to drink a glass of water and do some yoga, and then things will be okay. It'll be hard to be like in that moment, think like, oh, I'm stressed out, if you're not already used to saying like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm gonna drink a glass of water and count to 10 in my head, and then things will be fine. Because you guys are a month out, maybe a month and a half or 2 months.
Yeah, it's about a little over a month, I think.
Yeah, where things get kind of like really
2 months. 2 months. Yeah.
So if you start now and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna drink a glass of water and like stretch out before I go to bed, then kind of like by habit, you'll kind of get into doing those things, and I think that'll really alleviate at least kind of like the top 10% of stress. You're not always at 100; you'll be at 90, and you can function. Another thing as well is if you're not used to living on your own, or you are not sure how you're going to acclimate, it can be really helpful to like learn how to make your like top 3 comfort foods for me. And it doesn't have to be healthy. Like my favorites is like really good carbonara pasta, like onion rings, you know, like fried chicken. Learn how to make those. Then if you have a really hard day, you're like, oh, screw it, I'm going to go home and eat a bunch of onion rings and, you know, like watch TV, and being able to kind of like pull yourself out of that and being like, oh, I live in the super countryside. I think we have like 2 restaurants in town, and they're only open on alternating, you know, like it's someone's front room in their house. So if they're not open, you know, then it's like, oh, I really want greasy fried food, and the next McDonald's is an hour and a half drive away. Then you're like, I'll just make it. So I think that's really kind of a helpful way to kind of like care for yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, stress techniques, very important. Okay, Lily, how about you? Any like tips for preparation for before getting to Japan?
Is that for me?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Like the audio cut out for a second, and I was like, I hope she didn't say my name because I didn't hear it. So
I did. You failed. No, I'm just
for me, I guess I have 3 things that are extremely hard to find in Japan, and therefore you should just pack lifetime supply of it. And one of those things are good deodorant. When I ran out of deodorant in Japan, that was a dark time in my life. I'm not even going to get into details.
No, I
but when
understand.
like at least pack enough until like the next time that you'll visit your home country again during like a break or something. But yeah, definitely pack deodorant. Second thing is if you are lazy like me, it's really hard to find dry shampoo in Japan. Oh my God, is this going to be like product placement or something? But I found dry shampoo finally. But it's really hard to find it in Japan unless you're super lucky. I found mine at an Aeon. But definitely pack that if dry shampoo is your friend. And number 3, it's really hard in my experience to find cocoa butter here. And that's like my secret weapon for getting rid of sunburns, which Japan has some pretty strong summers, and you might get sunburnt. So one way or another. So, that was always something I wish I had on me, but I don't have or can't find so easily. So definitely be aware of the things that are easy and not easy to find in Japan, and stock up like your life depends on it. That's my take.
Can I add it?
Definitely. Yeah, yes. Go ahead, Sam.
I also bring a lot of toothpaste from America because I understand there's no fluoride in the toothpaste in Japan, so I don't trust it. And I bring supplies from America.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I can just jump on toothpaste, they have actually started. If you look really, really hard, you can find it. But like, if you have your brand, like stick with your brand from your home country.
Yeah. Yeah. Olivia, what you doing?
It's expensive too. It's more expensive than the super minty candy paste.
Yeah. I know Aquafresh does have fluoride in it, but I don't think it's a lot. The water doesn't have fluoride, so it's like, okay, my teeth might end up with some cavities. So bring American toothpaste with lots of fluoride, or whatever country. Sorry, I'm American. We be like that sometimes, yo. But yeah, if you have like whatever country things, that's the gesture that I'm doing right now. Any special products, like Lily said, any special products like toothpaste, deodorant, anything. If you have special face stuff that you might not be able to get here, or like scalp things. I have a scalp condition, so I brought shampoo with me, and then when I ran out of that shampoo, I did look for Japanese alternatives and did find a good alternative, but it's not a guarantee. So just make sure you stock up on some things before coming. And also my other advice is, before you leave, to prepare, like adding on to what people have said already, eat things from your home country that you might not be able to get here. Go to restaurants, go out with your friends, go with family, and just enjoy your home country. I know it's hard to do because you're probably really excited to get here, but you'll have time to enjoy things while you're here. So enjoy America. I keep saying America. I'm so sorry. I'm not international. Enjoy your home country is what my point here. Anything that you just might not be able to get in your home country. And there was something else I was going to say, and I've totally forgotten what it is now. So if I think of it later, I will just randomly pop in. But we'll move on to the next question. So, okay. All right. So Lily, I believe it is your turn to take the next question.
Okay. Next question. What are your tips for making friends, both Jet and Japanese, when we get to our placements? Okay, I want to start with Meghana this time, and I'm not following any formula whatsoever.
It's okay. It's all good.
Oh gosh. Tips for making friends. I would say, well, at least for making Jet friends, join your local AJet chapter. Haha. That's actually no joke. I'm the treasurer for the Hokkaido AJet chapter, and that's where I met like a lot of really great people. Reach out to the other jets in your area. I know they can be difficult, but I think most areas are pretty good about having like welcomes and that kind of stuff. In terms of making Japanese friends, I am maybe not the person to give you help on that, because that's something that I personally struggle with, and I know that that's something that jets perennially struggle with. I think there was just a conversation about this in one of the jet Facebook pages, actually. And a lot of people have different opinions, but I think the biggest takeaway that I had is that I think it's a global problem that immigrants and expats face, is struggling sometimes to make friends with people in the country that you've moved to. Think about your own life in your home country now. How many friends do you have that are recent immigrants? I think with the language barrier, no matter how good you are, it can be a struggle. So just, I would say, if you're struggling to make Japanese friends, know that that's not necessarily like a reflection on you. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It takes time and it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I'm gonna put like a big super like on her on Meghana's mention of the AJET chapters though, like for real. Okay. Next, can we have Heather?
So yes, definitely do the AJET thing. It's like the easiest way to make connections to the other jets, especially if you're in far removed places. Your excuse to go meet up with people. It's like the only one for the winter in Hokkaido. It's the only thing getting me out of like my town. And then for like making Japanese friends, definitely it's a very good point, a very valid point. And I would say like, leave your house, like go out of your house and go do things you enjoy doing. Like go, if you like, and then even if you enjoy, say, like reading or artwork or anything, like take that outside and then like make yourself accessible to the Japanese people like in your town or in your neighborhood or nearby. I have kids, they're a built-in conversation starter. People know my kids' names and don't know mine. Like I am Jasmine and Lily's mom. And I find that when you have something that people can, like, a lot more people want to maybe interact with you, but there are certain, like, social graces in Japan where you don't necessarily go, like, start a random conversation with people, but if you kind of have an in to start a conversation. So in my case, it's often, oh, my kid is in the same class as yours. Let's start talking for the next hour. So, like, and that, it can also be, oh, like, you went to this, like, random art class or this one talk or went to this thing at the library and, oh, I went to that thing too and I saw you there. Like give people kind of like a way in too, like help them out. Like, I mean, it's hard for us to start with people and it's hard for them to like start these relationships with us too. And so I would say try and do that. Like do the things you enjoy and make yourself accessible. And don't beat yourself up if you're not best friends with everyone within your first month. It takes time.
Those are all very good points, yes. And next, let's have Alivia.
Okay. I know this is AJET Central here, and you guys are going to roast me alive for saying this, but you don't have to be friends with every ALT you meet. And
it's true. It's good advice.
It is really good advice because Iwate has just under 40 jets prefecturally. So we have one of the lowest populations of ALTs, and a lot of them are Interac as well. But in my first 6 months, I was just sad all the time because I was like, I'm not making friends. Like I don't know how to say this. I thought that I had all these friends, and then I hit a wall where I was like, I don't like these people. Like, and then it was this big crisis of like, I have to be friends with them because they're the only ones in the area and I'm going to die, if I'm alone. But, and then on the other hand, I kind of went through this phase of like, every person I meet, I have to be friends with you, and that's what serial killers think, man. Like, it's okay. It's okay to kind of like organically develop relationships with people and not just latch on to, the first person you meet and you're like, we're best friends now. We're going to wear matching necklaces. It's going to be, like that only works if you're in 3rd grade, and, I guess, but after I went through that phase, I do have a lot of really good friends in the area now. And I'm glad that I was kind of like serious about going through and thinking like, who do I get along with? Who do I not get along with? And why? And the second part of that is you might make friends with people that you thought you would never make friends with. Because my town is pretty rural and most of my friends are 70-year-old men. And Oh, they're great. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to go fishing on the ocean with one of my friends. And
That's awesome.
it's great. It's great. And they have a lot of really cool opportunities, and they are really nice and want to help. And we have just a whole, I like to call them my dad squad, because they're all, I'm younger than them by like 40 years, definitely, every single one of them. But they're really funny and really generous. And I never would have thought that, moving to the countryside, I was going to be friends with like a whole bunch of like cool, hip 20-year-olds. And that was not the case. And once I kind of got it together and was like, no, actually, I do like these people, and I'm going to continue hanging out with them, things get a lot easier.
Wow. I feel spiritually cleansed now. No, everything you said is true. I'm an island jet, so it can get pretty. The pool of people that you can connect with can get pretty limited, and just like she said, you don't have to connect with everyone. It's fine. Now let's have Samantha's view.
All right. Well, I am actually pretty introverted, and making friends is not my strong suit. I have about 3 friends, and that's enough for me. So this question might not really super apply to me, but as far as making friends with Jets go, I mean, it's really no different than making friends with any other people. Hang out with people you like, don't hang out with people you don't. When you first come over, I would recommend definitely going to a number of AJET events, just so that you can know who's there. And then as far as Japanese friends go, I mean, my coworkers are really nice, and I've generally become friends with some of them, and I think that's pretty easy because you see them regularly, and if you're friends with your English teachers, then they can communicate with you a little bit more easily.
Good. Yeah, definitely. And last, Laura, please.
So I'm glad that you guys mentioned the AJET stuff, because that's the point that I forgot in the last question. Is to prepare whenever you're preparing right now, is go ahead and join your group's Facebook group or whatever kind of social media they have where they put out announcements and events and stuff. Go ahead and take a look around those, because they do have a lot of good information, and then people are also like selling things that you might want to get when you come over. And also, like, you can figure out kind of what the vibe is and what everybody's doing, and then like the AJET block group and stuff, like join the block group so you can figure out what's going on in the prefectures around you. And yeah, I think it's like everybody said, just making friends it's like making friends anywhere. You don't have to be friends with everybody just because you're here. You should make friends, because you like the person, and you don't. I think sometimes people come over of like, yeah, I'm just gonna make all these friends, and like everybody's together at first, and it's that kind of like nice, fun, polite time, and you're really excited all together. And then sometimes as time goes on, it becomes like okay, I actually kind of can't stand these people, like Al said, yeah. But then you do hit that wall sometimes. But then if you work past it, you find out the people that you do truly like to be around, and it can even be people that you weren't really all that great friends with at first. Like I have friends now who I wasn't super close to in my first year, but over time we've grown closer. And it's the same with Japanese people. It might be. It depends on what you're doing. It might be a little bit harder, especially with teachers, I think, because they're so busy, to make friends with teachers. But it's the same thing of, if people want to be friends with you, they will make time for you. Even if they are busy, they will make time, or you can try to make time together. So just in order to make friends, if you really want to try to be friends with people, just create those opportunities, make some time, invite people out, and do things. I'm also quite introverted. That's very hard for me. So yeah, just do what you can. Just do what you can to the best of your ability to make friends, and not like Al said, don't like latch onto them and be like, we're gonna be BFFs and have like BFF donut necklaces and stuff. So I mean, hey, if you find a friend like that, totally cool. Not saying you can't, but just make friends like you normally would. That's all we can say, really. And join your Facebook groups and stuff. Okay. We've reached our hour limit, but we still have a lot of questions. So if you guys are still cool to hang around for a while, I think Lily, you might have to go soon.
Yes, I was actually gonna wrap up that question, and then I'm probably gonna have to head out.
Okay.
But just real quick on that question about making friends. When I first came here, I wanted to make friends with everyone, especially, living on an island. I was terrified of feeling isolated, and I did feel isolated for a long time. And I was very upset and frustrated very often how I wasn't like getting along with everyone, and how it seemed like I just could not make friends as easily as I could back home, both ALTs and Japanese coworkers. And so my advice, like, sounds so silly, but please make really good friends with yourself first. Please, like, just enjoy your own company.
That's really good advice, though.
Enjoy your own company first and foremost. Think about your own needs and wants. If you want to go somewhere, you don't need a friend to go do it. Do it by yourself. I swear it's still as fun, or if not even more fun. You don't have to wait on other people. Just do the thing. You have the resources. You have everything at your fingertips. Just go for it. Enjoy your company. Relax. The people will come to you when you are just comfortable with yourself. And it took me quite a while to find, a good circle of people. And most of the circle of people that I have found have been through AJET groups. So it does help. So join all your block groups, join your prefecture groups, join every group, help groups, everything, and just, see who has similar interests or see events going on, go to those. But definitely get used to you're lonely, because it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
No, definitely not.
And that's my TED Talk. Now I'm gonna leave.
Thanks for coming to Lily's TED Talk.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But it's really good. It's been good. I gotta.
Any final thoughts, Lily? Anything you want to add before you head out?
Have fun, y'all. YOLO.
Do people still say YOLO? I've lost track of all that's cool anymore.
I don't think so.
No, it's not cool. That was the most uncool thing I could have ever said. But no, really, just have fun, y'all. Don't worry too much. Don't stress too much. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
With that.
All right, Lily. All right. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. Okay. All right. Okay, are you guys still cool to answer a couple more questions, or do you guys need to still go?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay. I was looking at the questions, and a lot of them I feel like we've already kind of answered. So I want to talk about schools. First of all, and we kind of mentioned this in introductions, but what schools, elementary, junior high, senior high, what schools do you teach at? How many schools do you teach at? Just on your weekly schedule, monthly schedule, whatever you have. Okay, let's start with Heather. Let's start with you this time.
All right, so I teach at 4 elementary schools, and I also go to 3 kindergartens. Most of my grades this year for elementary are 5th and 6th years, and I go to all of the English classes at all of my schools for those grades. I also go to some of the 3rd and 4th year classes as well, but we also have a Japanese ALT who kind of splits the 3rd and 4th year classes with me, because it'd be impossible for me to go to every single one. So those, I go to each school at least 1 day a week, some of them 2. And I go to the kindergartens. I usually do an hour lesson with each kindergarten once a month. So usually every Friday I'll visit a kindergarten and have lunch at all of my schools.
All right, awesome. Okay, Al, how about you? What's your situation?
I am municipal, so I'm based at the BOE, and Mondays I teach at one of 7 different pre-K, kindergarten, daycare type situations. And then I teach at one junior high. Sometimes I help out with another junior high in the town next door. And then I have 2 elementary schools that I also go to. So kind of each day I take a different school.
Okay. All right. And Sam, how about you? What's yours?
I teach at 3 different high schools. My base school I'm at 3 days a week, and I teach all the first years. One of my visit schools is a vocational school, and I teach 3rd years. And then the other visit school is just another regular high school. I teach mostly 1st years, and then one class, cross-cultural understanding, with 3rd years.
That's interesting. Cross-cultural understanding. What kind of stuff do you do in that class?
It's a pretty typical class in Saitama, as far as I know, from the other Jets I've talked to. It's like I teach them about American food or the 50 states. Or we have things like, right now we're doing presentations. Each student selected a famous person from a different country. That kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. That sounds cool. All right. And Meghana, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm BOE based. I have my main school is a junior high school. I have 3 elementary schools, one that I go to once a week, one that I go to twice a month, and one that I go to once a month. And then I go to like a pre-K daycare. It's like covers literally like age like birth to 5, that I go to sporadically, maybe like 2 or 3 times a month. And at the preschool, I literally just show up for however long I feel like showing up, play with the kids, speak some random English words, not anything structured. Usually in the mornings, I'll go to the BOE, check in, head to school, teach through lunch, and then go back to the BOE for the afternoons.
Okay. All right. And my situation, junior high jet, and I teach at one elementary school, one junior high. I used to have 2 elementary schools, but starting last year, not this past April, but the April before, elementary education in Japan increased its hours for 5th and 6th grade. So yeah, those of you who are teaching elementary, you're like, yep. So before, I'll explain this to you guys. Before, we had 5th and 6th grade once a week for like one regular class time. Now, I'm pretty sure it's all of Japan now, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, anybody else. It's 5th and 6th grade is twice a week. My city started it like last year with twice a week, whereas I know other places in Japan did sort of a like intermediate time where it was sort of like not so much twice a week, but maybe sometimes twice a week-ish. My city is just a little bit crazy and like, let's go for it. But now also 3rd and 4th grade have required English, whereas before they didn't. So now I'm going to 3rd and 4th grade once a week, and then 5th and 6th grade twice a week in elementary school. So that because of that increase, I lost one of my elementary schools, and they added more jets to my area. And then junior high, I go to all the classes. We only have one class for each grade, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd years. And so I go to all of those classes. And then for second years, we divided the class into 2 because there's so many kids. The max number of kids for a class is 40 kids. So you might be coming into a situation where you have enormous class sizes, and it can be quite daunting. And yeah, hang on, Al, I'll get to you in a second. So in order to like handle it, we divided them up into 2. So I alternate those. And okay, Al, you look like you want to say something. So
I was just saying that 40 kids is like a nightmare. I don't know, but
yeah,
but no, you'll have to deal with it. I say that's a nightmare, but if you put me in front of 40 kids, like that is my job, I would do that. But that's all I have to say. Yeah. My elementary schools are 25 and 33 altogether. So
you have small schools.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 2nd graders in one of my schools and 5 1st graders.
Yeah.
In another. So
yeah, that situation can happen too. Yeah, you might either have enormous class sizes or you might have like really tiny schools. So
Yeah, and I guess on that note as well, I actually teach combined classes because the classes are so small. My first and second graders are together, my third and fourth graders are together, my fifth and sixth graders together, which is not unusual, I think, if you live in a more rural area. But that does mean that you have to teach out of 2 textbooks, sometimes simultaneously, depending on what your JTE wants to do. I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough to be the main English teacher at my elementary school, so they kind of let me plan everything. But I have 1 or 2 teachers that kind of have this really just like teach out of both books simultaneously. Hopefully something sticks. Go, Olivia, go kind of like teaching style. So it depends.
yeah, I feel that. Okay. Anybody have anything to add on to that? Like, what are your class sizes like, or anything? Sam, I'm curious. Like, what are your class sizes like in Saitama for senior high school?
All of my classes are 40 to 41 kids. All of them.
So you have that, yeah.
Yeah. But they're high school students, so they're much more well behaved. They don't get out of their chairs and walk around randomly. So it's manageable. It's difficult to get everybody to participate evenly, but they're pretty well behaved kids. Japanese students in general tend to be a little bit more mild-mannered than American students, at the high school level at least.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of like other things. I'm like, yeah. So, okay, sorry. Somebody was gonna say something. Who is it? Heather? Okay.
Yeah, so mine are pretty variable. I have like one first-year kid who I have like a 20-minute very informal lesson with, and then I have like a 4-student 5th and 6th year combined class. But then one of my schools I have like 34 students per grade, and I have like 32 in one of my preschools, so I have 32 5-year-olds for an hour. And so mine are it's good times. So mine are pretty variable from sort of your very smallest to some of kind of at your higher end. But we have a really interesting thing we're doing to implement the new elementary curriculum. My BOE they hired a single English teacher who is responsible for all of the curriculum for all of the elementary school grades at all 4 of our elementary schools. Nice. And so he right now is the T1 for every single elementary school class, and then I'm T2 for almost all of them. And then the homeroom teachers are attending, and basically it's like training, because most of the homeroom teachers are not trained to teach English in elementary school. So there's very varying ability levels there. And so they're being trained by him how to teach this curriculum, and then to kind of move into the T1 position, which is really, really great. And I love it. And so it's possible that you might have a situation like that during this sort of transitional time. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Meg.
Yeah.
Meghana?
If I can add on to that, I also have the really small. My junior highs are like 25 to 30 class sizes, but then my elementaries, like one of my schools, only has 1 first grader. But also bouncing off kind of what you were saying, Heather, about the levels of the HRTs that you'll be working with, because like by the book, technically what is supposed to happen is the homeroom teacher is T1 and then we're T2. A lot of the time that's not what actually happens.
Wait, can I just
interject
here and say for a lot of the incoming jets, I think that like HRT and T1 and T2 are things that...
Oh, yes. Yeah. So the homeroom teacher is supposed to be the main teacher, and then you're the assistant teacher in the room. A lot of the time, that's not what actually happens. And in my experience, most of the elementary homeroom teachers that I work with don't speak any English. So they're supposed to be the main teachers for English class, but they don't speak English. And that works just about as well as it sounds that it would. So that's something that you may have to run into a lot as well. That's just something you kind of have to figure out how to work with.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
go ahead.
And that is more of an elementary school issue than, so like the other ALT here, he teaches all just the junior high classes. And I sometimes, well, I don't really have time this year, but last school year when I had time, I would go into some of his classes on my free days. And those teachers are more trained English teachers who have like a certain level of English ability. And so it's more of the elementary school teachers, because of the new curriculum and all of that during this transitional time, that you'll run into that problem more. For junior high, it's less of an issue where you might come in and your English teacher might not know much English at all. So
definitely, yeah. I know in my city we do have teachers. We have teachers for 5th and 6th grade now. Last year it was just 6th grade, but now it's 5th and 6th. And then the homeroom teachers are expected to teach English, but like others have said, their English isn't all that great sometimes. It's very dependent on the teacher. Sometimes you get like, I know at one school this last year they had a teacher who was like super fluent in English. He was a homeroom teacher and he could like just English all day, every day. But then, you know, other places, they might not be able to speak much English and even might be like, why can't I speak English? I'm like, well, did you try? So no. Yeah, it's true story. Had a homeroom teacher a couple years ago who loved to ask me, why can't or why don't Japanese people speak more English? And I tried to explain, like, sometimes people have trouble, like they feel embarrassed or they don't want to make mistakes, but trying is the important part. And he would ask me this like 5 or 6 times throughout the year, and then he didn't try to speak English in our classes either. So that might happen. So not to discourage anybody. I think it's personally kind of funny, and I always like to be like, hey, you can do it too. So anyway, Sam, for like high school, I know I think the level for teachers, like their English level, is probably higher, right? Is it?
Supposedly. I have a couple of teachers who are fluent and a couple of teachers who don't understand what I mean when I ask them, how's your day been? Shit you not, they don't understand what I mean. So I think that all of the high school students have a higher understanding of grammar, but they don't necessarily have the ability to verbally communicate using English.
Yeah, definitely. Many times they teach, I think, for the test rather than teaching for communication. So part of our jobs, I think, as ALTs is to help them more with the communication and the speaking aspect of it. Just keeping that in mind for future people, like, you know, help with the communication part. Okay, any other additions to school bits, like about your situation or anything, guys? You good? Okay, everybody's just like, yes. Okay, so we're gonna keep talking a little bit about school. Before you came to Japan, guys, did you have any kind of teaching experience before, or like tutoring, or anything like that? Let's start with Alivia. Al, how about you?
Thank you. Okay. So in university, I was a professor's assistant for Japanese language, actually. And then I spent a year I studied abroad at Okayama University. And at that time, I worked as a English-speaking preschool assistant. There was a bilingual pre-K there that is really cool. And they let me come in a couple times a week and kind of hang out with the kids. As well as I did do some Kaiwa work, but that's very different from like teaching in a classroom. But mostly my job as a teaching assistant in university, I think, kind of helped. But yeah, that's
There's some dinging going on, guys. I don't know where it's coming from, but
oh, sorry,
dinging. I heard a ding.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
computers.
It's okay. Cool. I was just like, so. All right. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. And next, Meg. How about you, Meghana?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to like chronological. So when I was in high school, I was an assistant teacher for like a martial arts class, and I think that's actually like the most similar to what I do now in a lot of ways, and I've taken a lot of the experience that I had from that. When I was in university, I was a ESL tutor for a local charity. So like once a week, I would like do one-on-one ESL tutoring. And then when I studied abroad in Spain in university, and I was a private English tutor for elementary schoolers then. And then before I came on JET, I got a TEFL certification.
So
but I had
you've got a lot of experience then. Yeah. Yeah. But then, I'm sorry, what did you start to say?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say the classroom part of it and like the classroom management was definitely like the part that I was most worried about, because like the way that you do classroom management for a martial arts class is really different than for like an actual academic class. So, but it ended up being like really okay and really fine. And
All right, cool. Okay, Sam, how about you? Any experience before coming to Japan teaching-wise?
Just a little bit. I do want to say real quick before I start, though, that classroom management shouldn't be your job. That should be the job of the main teacher.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to do that.
1000% agree.
You might have to end up doing that, but you really shouldn't be. But as for my experience goes, really nothing formal. I had taught some private lessons on flute, and I tutored a couple of children in Japanese, but really nothing formal, no training, no real experience before coming over. My first lesson was a mess, guys.
I mean, it's okay. It's all good. You know, I've heard people say like, just expect to fail in your classes for like the first 6 months, and then after that, you know, just be a little bit better.
Definitely. After
much.
I came to Japan, though, actually, last summer, I took an online course for, forgetting the word, TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. And that actually really helped a lot to give me like structure and ideas of at least what I should be doing.
Yeah.
So if you have time to do that this summer while you're desk warming, might be something that you want to look into if you don't have any prior teaching experience.
Yes, and just throwing it out there for people for the future, you're probably going to forget this, but you'll get notifications about it later. JET has a TEFL certification, like, what's the word for it, guys? It's the money.
Grant. Right?
Grant? I can't. Grant. I can English well, I promise. But so yeah, they have a grant for if you want to get the TEFL certification. So you don't have to spend all of your money on it. It can be a little bit pricey sometimes, but JET can help you out with that. Okay, Heather, somebody has joined you, and any experience in teaching-wise before you came?
Yes, so I taught for 3 or 4 years at high schools in Alaska. So I worked at a short-term residential school that had partnered with like I think 15 high schools in Alaska. So we had students come from all over, usually rural schools, and all high school students. Yes. And do kind of short-term programs, anything from 3 days to like a month. A lot of like filling gaps and doing college prep and that sort of thing. And so that definitely helped a lot. It got me well acquainted with being comfortable with the blank stares that you sometimes get when teaching your classes. You might get those, and it's okay. It's not your fault. Blank stares are okay. And so that was most of my teaching experience, was being involved in that, and then some summer programs and that sort of thing as well.
Okay,
and them,
cool.
of course, obviously.
Yes,
Probably
course.
the easiest for preschool was having your own children.
Yeah, and oh, so cute. So yeah, for me, I'm kind of the opposite of like most of you, all of you. I had like 0 teaching experience. So you can get in JET with no teaching experience, guys. don't be afraid if you don't have any teaching experience. But I did work at a residential high school for high schoolers. And I lived in a building with them, and so I had experience being around students and being in that environment. And as well as I did programs and things, so I would be planning events, planning things. I've worked with kids kind of my whole life. My mom babysit and stuff, so I'm used to kids. That's no problem. But as far as the teaching bit, I really had no clue what I was doing when I first came in. And I didn't really get any kind of information about that from my predecessor. So I kind of had to just wing it for a long time. And, you know, I make it work. I've gotten a lot better at it. But I didn't know how to do it. And especially classroom management, like the rest of you talked about, I had no clue how to do that. My recommendation on that, watch episodes of Super Nanny. I completely serious. I've just watched like episodes of Super Nanny or any other kind of like how to handle kids kind of situation. Because it can be quite helpful to know how to speak to kids, especially younger kids, and how to deal with it, especially if you've never really like dealt with kids a lot of the time. That and improv classes. Yes, everybody's nodding their head like, yeah. Did any of you take any kind of like improv or any kind of like that? No, but you're just like, yeah.
We're bringing out like the dark and dirty like high school thespian question, aren't we? Yeah.
I think it does help though, right? Like if you have some sort of like on the spot kind of like you have to think quickly kind of training, right? It's very helpful, I think.
Oh yeah, I've definitely walked into classes where there was a miscommunication and they forgot to tell me that I had class. And they were like, "Yeah, so 40 minutes, go." And I was like, improv. So it's very helpful.
Let's yes and everything to this.
I had one class. It was a preschool class. And at one point, I'm pretty sure some of the teachers, they usually like go into the break room and have their little like 30-minute freedom time while I'm like teaching them about apples and bananas or something. They came in one time though, and the kids were like dancing around in a circle. They were like doing this and going, gorilla, gorilla. I'm pretty sure they came out of the teacher's lounge and they were like, oh my God, what's like, it was like a cult or something, but they all know their animals now. And they all know their animals really well. So sometimes you just have to. And I was like, okay, now we're doing, you know, and everyone was like, elephant.
That's actually a really good trick, and I might steal that.
Oh, it's great if you do just as a brief aside, like TPR, if you've done that with kids before, but instead of actions, animals.
Yeah.
Works really well. Looks like a cult. It's great.
TPR meaning?
Total physical response.
Yes.
Big quiz.
Which is when you get them like, yeah, which is when you get them like active and physically doing things. Like what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Hello?
Okay. Yes, Sam.
Sorry, but I have actually got to run.
Okay, yeah, we should probably wrap this up here anyway. Maybe we'll do one more question. Sam, do you need to go like right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got something
Okay,
going on.
it's cool. It's really fine. No big. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. I know we ran out a little over time. There's just a lot of questions. So yeah, thank you so much for all of your like situation and advice and everything that you talked about today. Like it's really helpful, especially for people who are senior high school. I think definitely they're good. They're probably really glad to hear from you. Anything you want to say, like as in at the end? Just any advice or anything? Comments?
I mean, pretty much just the same thing as the. Gosh, I'm sorry, I forget her name. She left already.
Lily?
Same thing Lily said. Enjoy yourself. Have fun.
Okay.
All
right. Well, thanks, Sam. Thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day in Saitama. Yeah. Okay, bye. Okay, guys, I know we've run over like 30 minutes happens. Okay, so do you guys, can you see the list of questions? We have a list of questions from the Facebook group, and if you guys want to, like, for last, maybe just pick a question and take it, and then we can just answer that. And I know some of them I think we've already kind of answered in previous questions, so if there's anything you see that you might just want to talk about really quick, we can do that. Okay, we are all looking. Okay.
Oh.
Al, you got something there?
No, I keep thinking that I'm okay to answer one, and then it turns out that I'm
okay.
Not.
One question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. So cars. I want to talk about cars really quick. I know a lot of people have questions about cars. Are you required to drive?
Yep.
Are any of you required to drive in your placement?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, Meg, can you talk about that?
So I'm in an extremely rural place. There's no transit in my town. There's only one inner city bus. It comes 4 times a day. Basically, if you want to like even get to the grocery store, you have to drive. I have a BOE car that I drive. 2 of my schools are like 20 minutes away. So I have a BOE car that I drive for like school. But for my personal car, it took about a month, for that month and a half, for me to actually like get it and get all the paperwork. My BOE actually was really nice and took care of like everything involving finding it for me. I would just recommend when getting a car, you can get some, like, you hear about like, oh yeah, $1,000, $1,500, you can get a car. But like, car's probably gonna be 20 years old. You're gonna have to pay a lot in like associated fees just with it being so old. So I would actually recommend spending a little bit more up front for a car that you're not gonna have to fix all the time, that you're not gonna have to pay a lot in. You have to pay every 2 years a really hefty a really hefty it's like a repair, basically like an inspection. The older the car, the higher the shock-in. So I would recommend paying a little bit more up front, so then your shock-in cost is lower.
Okay. Yeah. Al.
I would go ahead and say my placement did not require a car, but it should. It's just enough that like we have a bus that goes to the school that I work at, but it only comes 3 times a day. So it was kind of like it would have been easier to get a car, and I did end up getting a $1,000 car. But I had a Japanese person help me who deals with cars a lot. So I would say if you're just looking for a car on your own, I definitely would go with something more expensive, because that will be more reliable. If you're lucky enough, because I'm definitely very grateful for my friend who did help me out, to have someone who knows a lot about cars and knows about, buying and trading and shock-in and the way Japanese cars work, then yeah, definitely go with that. But yeah, if you're just starting out and like need a car immediately, I definitely agree.
Yeah, that's some good advice. Okay, Heather, what's your situation with cars?
We also have to have a car to be able to get to all the schools. There is a BOE car, and I guess I could technically walk like half an hour and get to the BOE and then use the BOE car, but it's this very crappy old yellow plate car, and some of my schools are very far through mountain passes, and it struggles in the summer, and I wouldn't feel particularly confident driving that in the middle of one of our mini blizzards. So you're pretty much required to get a vehicle, and they definitely encourage you to get one. And I had to spend a little extra because, of course, I have 2 extra children. They take up more space. And your options here, unless you want to buy a newer, much more expensive vehicle, are a small car, a very small car, or like these giant minivan box creations. So I ended up with one of those, and they are a little more expensive. So I ended up having to spend like, I think, $37 on it, which is painful. And then also be prepared for your yearly vehicle tax. And even though it's really not, I mean, it's not the end of like my giant vehicle is still was less than like $500 US. So it's not like the end of the world, but it is something. Smaller vehicles have a lower tax. Larger vehicles are going to have a higher tax. So something to be prepared for as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to put that
Okay.
in perspective, I have a little yellow plate and it was a $70 car tax.
Mm.
So there's a big
Yeah.
spectrum there.
Right. Yeah. As far as like getting cars from your preds, how do you guys feel about that?
Well,
Let's see, Olivia? Oh. Or who is it? Heather?
okay.
Go ahead.
I gotcha.
Okay. So me and the other ALT that came the same time as me, we replaced a single person. And so she had a small white plate, but still like a smaller old vehicle that she offered to him. And I think it was only like about $1,000 for that. And so he bought that from her. It was due in a few months for its test, its 2-year test. And it was definitely an older vehicle. It's been through some rough times. And she warned him about that. She's pretty open about it, but it ended up having brake issues and costing like over $2,000 to fix on a $1,000 vehicle. So, and she didn't mislead him and she just didn't know. It was kind of a surprise for everybody, but something to keep in mind if you're buying vehicles off of predecessors is, it hasn't been to one of the used car lots and say checked, and they don't have requirements on what necessarily they have to be telling you or know about the vehicle. And especially if it's due for its test soon, you might be surprised. But you also, he still spent overall less money than I did. So, it's a hit or a miss.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Okay. Al, how about you?
Yeah, I would say that there's no huge problem with buying your Pred's car. I would say just as a precaution, you can ask that they get it appraised before you buy it from them, and that way you're paying kind of as much as it's worth. And if they do get it appraised and they do get it, checked from a mechanic, and it says it will have these problems in the future, then that's something to be aware of versus just kind of on Facebook Messenger, like, hey, want my car? Yeah, sure. But other than that, yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
And
agree with,
Meghana?
yeah, I would agree with what's been said. The one thing to keep in mind, my Pred, like, just because of how she bought her car, she was required to sell it back to the seller, so she couldn't sell it to me. So I had to find like a not Pred car, and that whole process, like I said, ended up taking like quite a while. So that's a factor to take in as well, is that if you buy your Pred's car, especially mainly if you're in a really rural area where there aren't a lot of cars to begin with for sale, if you don't buy your Pred's car, it may take you longer to actually like do that process of buying a car and filling out all the paperwork.
Yeah, very true.
Definitely. I think I caught rides with the other ALT for like a month and a half before I had my own vehicle. And so I was lucky that he was there, but that's definitely a big thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I had to have friends who live like 20 minutes away come and like pick me up to take me to the grocery store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's the nearest jet.
Yeah. I know for my situation, my Pred had a car. It was a white plate. And for those of you who don't quite know yet, yellow plate are also called K cars, and they have smaller engines. They have up to 160cc engines, whereas white plate cars are full-size engines, more of what you would get like in America or in the UK, or just full-size cars. So they have more power. But K cars are generally cheaper. They have yellow license plates on them. So my predecessor had a white plate, but I couldn't afford it. And I was lucky enough that we have an English-speaking mechanic here in Yamanashi who like deals in cars and stuff. So like a lot of people buy cars from him, and he managed to find me a really good deal. And it wasn't the best car. It was a Suzuki Wagon R. Suzuki's generally have problems with them. I'm just gonna put that out right now. So it did last me a while though. It lasted me over a year, like a year and a half, and I did have to pay shock-in on it, which is the 2-year like fee that Meghana talked about. But yeah, it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well, and then when it crapped out, I had to get a new car, which has done me well the last like 3 years, last 2.5-ish years. But yeah, definitely things to think about as far as cars is, do you really need it? How expensive are they? You might want to go more expensive. Do you want a yellow plate versus do you want a white plate? What's your Preds car like? And I actually recommended this to somebody who asked it on the Facebook group. They're like, hey, my Pred's got a car. Is this a good deal? And I said, have them send you pictures. Have you send them pictures of everything, every single thing on the car, because you're not there to actually look at it. And your Pred might not be around. You might not have that overlap where you could look at it. Sometimes you do, but it's a very rare occurrence. So yeah, have them send you pictures of the tires and any marks and the interior and everything. Just anything you can possibly get from that situation. And like ask them when the shotgun is due on it. Because you kind of don't want to get into Japan and then immediately have to pay $500-600, like 5-6 mon for shotgun when you're just starting to get set up and you haven't maybe only just got paid. Because that'll take a good chunk out of your paycheck when you need to be, buying stuff for yourself and getting into your apartment and stuff. That's my advice when it comes to cars. Anybody else got anything to add on to that? Good. Okay. Any other questions you want to answer before we head out of here?
I'll do one really, really quick, just because I saw it and I sometimes see it appear on the internet page a lot recently, is how viable is it to be vegan in Japan? Just in case there's anyone watching. I actually have a friend who lives in Iwate who's vegan, and she's having an okay time with it. I think starting out was a little bit rocky, but it's really easy to be a vegetarian here. Being vegan is a little bit more difficult because a lot of the alternative protein sources that are not tofu are harder to find, and things like nuts and chickpeas and beans especially. But if you're okay with eating a lot of tofu, yeah, go for it.
Does she have to eat school lunch?
I believe she's high school, so she does not. She packs a lunch.
Okay.
But along that same vein, I do elementary and junior high, and I don't eat school lunch with the kids. I bring my own lunch, and that has not really been a problem. I get a lot of questions about like why, but other than that, they said, yeah, sure. If you want to pack a bento and do that every day, then fine.
Okay. All right. Anybody want to add on to the Heather or Meghana? Anything? Okay. All right. Any other questions that you guys want to answer, Heather or Meghana?
I'll just real quick answer that one about what kind of work have you been assigned to do with the BOE instead of your school. So I think that's coming from some people have base schools where like that's your school, you're there every day. Some people, like I kind of mentioned, I go to the BOE every day and then I'm there almost every afternoon. When I'm there, I'm just expected to prep for my upcoming lessons, study Japanese. I do a lot of Hajjet work on the sly. They don't really care what I do as long as it looks like I'm being somewhat productive. I don't get any work like assigned from the BOE, except maybe like once a year do like an eikaiwa, but that's it. And I think that's most people's situations.
Okay. Yeah. Heather.
I'd say fairly similar to that. Yeah, you're rare. In my case, I'm rarely assigned work from the BOE. We do have twice a year English camps, multi-day English camps that are kind of multi cities, like I think 3 other cities and are involved with them, that we are kind of expected to plan and prepare for when we're at the BOE as an additional BOE job. And me and the other ALT both have an eikaiwa. I have a once weekly for 3rd and 4th grade elementary students, and he has a once weekly adult eikaiwa that we're expected to prepare for when we're spending our time at the BOE. But otherwise, as far as assigned work, there's really not a lot. I've started requesting to help with like translation stuff, like anything. And at first it was sort of like, okay, what's this sign? Is it camp place? I'm like, no, it's campground or campsite, like little things. And as they kind of were more comfortable, I've done like helped out. They've come to me with like emails from incoming English speaker visitors doing things here, and like I've been involved with helping like the museum translate like a lot of its information over into English as well. But that was not, none of that was something I was expected to do, that I kind of had to ask and kind of push for and prove that I was actually meant that I really wanted to do, that they've slowly started giving me, but isn't necessarily an expectation for my being there.
All right, cool. Okay, Al, anything to add on to that? Any kind of BOE stuff?
I do weekly APIWA classes that I usually work on during BOE time. I do a lot of personal stuff as well. Hopefully I'm going to take N2 in December. So for the JLPT, the proficiency test. I read all of Game of Thrones. If you have a really relaxed BOE, I will. But yeah, mostly I study or I do worksheets, or I plan for a lot of the kiddie classes. You know, I'm looking up on projects, and the way my BOE has, or the way my predecessors have kind of told me what was up last year was, as long as it is, you know, mostly text-based and you're not like watching YouTube videos and scrolling through Instagram, then as long as you're looking busy, it's fine.
All right, cool. And just adding on to that, for my situation, we don't have to go to the BOE, or you might have to go to like the Yakuba, which is, I think the BOE is like usually in the Yakuba. But we do occasionally have work to do for the BOE, especially if you are a person who tends to have higher level of Japanese. They might occasionally ask you to do things like, right now, everybody who is first year jet here is in the process of getting their Japanese driver's license, which means we have to go to the driving center, and at first you have to do an interview, which is all in Japanese. So just as a precaution, my supervisor is having either our English coordinator who speaks English go with the first year jets, or like a couple of other jets here who have like higher levels of Japanese to help like interpret and translate in case they don't understand something. So stuff like that, maybe like interpretation or helping out new jets, is something that we usually do. Or if my supervisor has a random thing he wants me to do, then I'm like, sure, no problem. Yeah, as far as that, though, other BOE work, we don't have to go to the BOE. It's just like stay at your school kind of thing. And, you know, you might have desk warming time. You'll hear that a lot, desk warming. You're like, hey guys, I'm desk warming again today. How are you? So we've all gotten used to it. Okay. Okay, any other questions that you guys want to answer? Everybody's good? All right. Okay, so it is now 12:48 and we've gone over quite a bit. So I think I'll end it here, and I hope that we managed to answer your guys' questions. I know we couldn't get to all the questions. Very sorry about that. It is quite a long list, but thank you so much for sending those questions in. And if you want to just ask them on the Incoming Jets 2019 Facebook group, feel free, go ahead, and we'll try to answer them there. You know, you've got tons of people there who want to help you. Special thanks to all of the people, but to Al and to Heather and to Meghana and Sam, who's no longer here, and Lily too, for coming, for volunteering their time on a Saturday morning to be here and answer your questions. Like everybody who, when I set out the thing of like, hey, volunteers, all of you were like, I really want to help people. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Mm-hmm. And let's see, what else? What else am I forgetting, guys? If you guys have interest, if any of you others who are watching out there have interest in us doing another live stream, maybe in another, like next month or closer to you actually coming to Japan, leave us a comment on this event in the Facebook group and say like, yeah, I'd like for you to answer some more questions, and we'd like to hear more from people. And then we might try to plan another live stream and maybe get some more of your questions in there. But until then, just keep asking your questions. We'll do our best to answer them with something other than ESID. So, all right. Any last comments from you guys? Let's see. Meg, how about you? Any last comments?
Just relax. The prep time and the waiting can be really scary, but just it'll be okay. Also, you may find that like your first couple lessons maybe go less terribly than you expected, and you're like, yeah, this is going pretty good. And then at the 1 month part, you hit this wall and everything is terrible and crashes and dies. You know, it'll bounce back. You'll get there. If things seem awful at first, it's normal.
Yes, very much so. Very true. Okay, Heather, any last comments?
Yeah, I would say so on the on the teaching thing, especially if you're a new teacher or have no experience. Back in Alaska, where I'm from again, an issue we saw with a lot of incoming teachers going into we get a lot of young first-time teachers just graduated and they're coming to teach at these rural schools, and they have this idea that like, hey, I'm coming into this community and I'm gonna like be the superstar and I'm gonna fix everything and I'm gonna just like be great and do all these things and solve all the problems. And like, you're not gonna fix all of Japan's educational issues regarding English while you're here. That's not your job, and it can be easy sometimes to be like to kind of let that get to you perhaps. And just remember, like, you know, you're not kind of get rid of the savior complex a little bit, and then just be there for your students and do your best to like help them learn English and give them a good base, and just like kind of make it not terrible for them, make them comfortable speaking and make them kind of see that it can be enjoyable. And you're not here to fix all of Japan's English education problems. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then just kind of when you come here too, just sort of a mental health thing, like I lived in Japan for a year in high school, like in Sapporo. Like I was like, I'm prepared. Hokkaido, I've got this. I know. I walked into my house first day here and I was like, this is the worst idea ever. What am I doing? Like I was 100% totally confident. I knew exactly like what I was going to do. And like walked in, I was like, oh my God. Some of my other friends I talked to, like they cried their first day here. Yeah. And they like called parents and called people and they're just like, this is terrible. What am I doing? Like that's 100% normal. It is so okay to feel that, like just all of a sudden be like, this was a terrible idea. If you didn't, I'd be surprised if you didn't like have those feelings. It's okay. It's perfectly, it's a normal thing to feel, and it's okay to feel those things and let yourself feel those things and to cry it out and talk to people and just then do nice things for yourself and then try and work through those. But it doesn't mean you made a terrible mistake and you need to go home tomorrow. It's okay. It'll be okay. But
So true.
that's my talk.
So true. Yeah, that's good advice. Okay, Al, any last comments from you?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, basically, it's going to be okay. You're not going to die. This is going to be like a great experience, and you'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Okay. And for me, yeah, just again, it'll be okay, and you guys will get through it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think everybody's said pretty much what I want to say too. My advice to you guys is for now, like keep preparing. You know, keep up your excitement, but again, enjoy what you're doing right now in your home countries. Make sure you get that good experience before you come here, and then you'll be super ready to like come here and you know just enjoy everything that Japan has to offer. And then when you get here, one good piece of advice that people told me is like your first year, just you know say yes to everything, and you know that's on a case by case situation, but at the same time, I'm really glad I did that because I have a lot of good memories from my first year. And I think it's good to you know get out and experience things when you get here and just enjoy it. But also, yeah, it's gonna be okay. You definitely might have those feelings of holy crap, I'm in Japan. I'm 14, 15, 20,000 miles away from everybody I know. I'm in this apartment. I hate my apartment. I hate my schools. I hate everything. But everybody's laughing like yes. That you have those moments, but you like Heather said, just work through them and you'll be okay. It's culture shock. It's that like stage 2 culture shock that might hit you all of a sudden. But you know, it's a process. It's a process of just working through it and getting a little bit better. So so don't stress out about it, or try not to. Okay, and I think on that note, I'm going to end this, and thank you guys again out there for joining us. And this video will be up on YouTube. It'll be available for you, anybody who hasn't been able to watch it maybe in its entirety, or hasn't been able to watch it like at all. So it will keep the link up on YouTube, on YouTube and on the Facebook group for you guys to watch. And again, let us know if you'd like to do, like for us to do another one, and we might try to get some new volunteers, or if the same peeps wanna chime in again and help us out, then we'd be happy to have you back. All right, again, thank you again to Alivia and Heather and Meghana, and then Sam and Lily, wherever you are. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you in Japan. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.